The consensus is Black Myth Wukong is a pretty exceptional game, and if you are one of the 18 million plus people out there that are craving for more of it, well, you're in luck, my friends. Just hours ago, per a Bloomberg report, an external shareholder from developer Game Science just reported that an expansion is in the works for Black Myth Wukong. Thanks to this incredible news, we are going to jump into some pretty incredible DLC reports here in this video, because there is a lot to go over here. From audio files found that could reveal appearances from characters in a future DLC, potential future boss battles or playable characters, future Black Myth games and a planned Black Myth trilogy, when to expect DLC announcements for Black Myth Wukong, and more. Don't you worry though, we are not going over any spoilers pertaining to what we currently have with the game, so for those who have not yet beaten the game and experienced the numerous secrets within, you have nothing to worry about. There's a lot to go over here, but pertaining to the contents of this upcoming DLC, I gotta let you know straight up that some of this is complete speculation at this point, as we're going over insider information that may not end up coming to fruition. So don't say I didn't warn you when I say take all this with grains of salt. If you're interested in learning more about the future of Black Myth Wukong, along with future games Game Science may be working on, then this is the video for you. All I ask is for you to smash that like button, participate in any giveaways found in the video description if any of these titles are to your liking, get free shipping worldwide off your GamerSupps order using this code at checkout, and more importantly, let me know in the comments if you're excited for this Black Myth Wukong DLC and if you're interested in future Black Myth games. Sound good? Good. Let's dive into the report. We're getting DLC, good people. With the game absolutely killing it with sales surpassing 18 million units sold within 2 weeks, Game Science is going all out here with robust DLC plans. And that Black Myth trilogy that Game Science was discussing years ago is now likely an inevitability due to this gargantuan success. Turning our focus to this DLC, all this news stems from one individual on X and Discord at Ignis the Wise, where this Chinese video game insider has shared rather a lot of information over on his Discord server. We have gone over Ignis the Wise's posts at length when covering Black Myth Wukong leading up to its launch, and well, that's because this user accurately leaked many features relating to the game months before the game dropped, pertaining to the number of boss fights and enemies in the game, other features like New Game Plus and multiple endings within the title, along with accurate info on trailer drops, pre-order information, to when the review embargo would lift, and a ton more. While Ignis has been very accurate with these things, his track record isn't 100% reliable, as he mentioned a demo would be released before the game dropped and more. So, like I said earlier, take this with grains of salt, people. Anyway, I apologize for the delay, so let's get into his post here that he made on September 2nd, where he claims that Game Science is aiming to launch 2 DLCs for Black Myth Wukong before they release their next game titled Black Myth Jiangziya. In addition, he claims that the game was meant to have 13 chapters, but the studio condensed all that into 6 chapters because of the budget. We'll get into more information that he mentioned over on his Discord page in a minute, but first, we gotta go over that number here. 2 DLCs? If this turns out to be true, I can only imagine the amount of future content that we may get out of this game. While I still maintain that this title is not a Souls-like game, even though it does share some similarities with the genre, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some DLC that expanded on the game world, added several new bosses, new transformations and spells, and perhaps some weapons like many Souls-likes have done in their DLCs. Expecting something as large as Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree may be pushing it here, in my humble opinion, but perhaps something more akin to Bloodborne's The Old Hunters DLC, where that game added 3 unique areas, a few bosses, amazing bosses mind you, and some unique weapons. Heck, even something similar to Dark Souls 3's DLCs could be something quite feasible for Black Myth Wukong. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, because this information found from Ignis's Discord reveals some audio files that may shed light as to what kinds of DLCs we may end up getting with the game in future content. On Ignis's Discord, he writes that audio files were found for Buddha and Jade Emperor, and further notes that future DLCs could feature a boss fight or playable Bull King, of whom is a major antagonist in Journey to the West that would be a real treat to see in an upcoming DLC. Ignis also relays that Buddha and Jade Emperor are all likely candidates to be featured in future content within Black Myth Wukong. These characters mentioned all contain incredibly rich stories that are fundamental pillars within Chinese mythology that could be further explored in a DLC to Black Myth Wukong, and honestly, I really hope to see these figures, especially Bull King and Jade Emperor, as I think this title's artistic approach to its characters and levels could appropriately host them when woven into the story. If I were to have a gripe about Black Myth Wukong, minor one at that, with no spoilers mind you, it is that I think the game sometimes rapidly introduces certain key figures a bit too abruptly with not much time in the spotlight before the story quickly moves on to the next beat. I mean, I completely understand why a game like this takes the pace that it does, seeing as Journey to the West is an incredibly vast novel that spans more characters and moments than most multi-season TV shows have these days. So having DLC dedicated to certain characters to give them more of a spotlight would be a huge win in my book, and would further flesh out and connect to the already impressive story that is contained within Black Myth Wukong. Definitely share with me your thoughts on this in the comments below, as I really do believe that this kind of DLC, one that is more focused on specific characters and moments, would be really great to see. These additional DLCs do make sense, seeing as Game Science initially planned for the title to contain 13 chapters, and while much of the game's content outlined by these chapters were likely featured in the resulting 6 chapters that we currently have in the final game, additional DLC sequestered to the many characters and moments that didn't make it into the title could likely have been left over for DLC updates. As for when we may expect an announcement for the DLC projects, Ignis writes that we could see an announcement in the summer of next year, around the 1-year anniversary of the game. Fascinating stuff, and I definitely see some DLC hitting the game at some point, seeing as this game has made a boatload of cash, and the game's FAQ leaves open the possibility of DLC in the future. Now, for the future Black Myth games, Game Science producer Feng Ji, in an interview with IGN China back in 2020, claimed that he was interested in having a trilogy of Black Myth games, with Black Myth Wukong being the first title of the bunch. Earlier this summer, Ignis reported that 2 trademarks for future Black Myth games were filed in China, with 2 of them being Black Myth Jiangziya and the other being Black Myth Zhonghui. According to Ignis's new reporting, it appears that Black Myth Jiangziya, a game detailing the Chinese military general who helped overthrow the Shang dynasty in ancient China, will be the next Black Myth game, with Ignis also reporting that Chinese deity Nurja, also known as the Third Lotus Prince, would have some sort of presence in this second Black Myth game. While no preliminary details have surfaced about this second Black Myth title, it is safe to say that this game's combat is going to be as gripping as ever in a title featuring the legendary Jiang Ziya, with developer Game Science likely to utilize a potentially more robust combat system to accurately reflect the combat prowess and intelligence of a man like Jiang Ziya. As Game Science has already done with Black Myth Wukong by exposing ancient Chinese culture to a global audience throughout their video game, I have utmost confidence that they will do Jiang Ziya justice here, along with what Ignis reported from an earlier post claiming that the third Black Myth game would be Black Myth Zhonghui. This title would likely feature the Taoist deity of Chinese mythology of the same name, known to be the vanquisher of ghosts and evil beings, in a game that would tap into the rich history, figures, and creatures within this nation's rich stories and mythology. This entire trilogy, once complete, will outline 3 key pillars within Chinese folklore and legends, all presenting some of the nation's most treasured history and tales, all wrapped up in 3 unique video games that contain state-of-the-art graphics, gameplay, and unique storytelling. As we've seen with Black Myth Wukong, the game is clearly a hit, and with DLC heavily likely to hit the title to flesh that title out even more, the quality of these future Black Myth games is undeniably going to be quite solid. With a studio whose dedication to promoting more about Chinese mythology and ancient Chinese tradition to a world largely not familiar to it, and with the studio proven to create a mighty fine, polished, and most importantly, fun video game in Black Myth Wukong, the future of not only Wukong, but of Black Myth games in general, is incredibly promising. Let me know your thoughts as always regarding this exciting information and which projects you are most interested in. Go ahead and join me in this video covering what's happening to the Xbox version of the game and the extensive recent patch notes released for Black Myth Wukong. That's all I got for you, my friends. I'll be seeing you real soon in the next one.